What is up, guys? Me again. So if you don't know already, I suffer from a lot of anxiety. It's not something that we've been conditioned to talk about, but I wanted to talk about it today. With everything that's going on in the world, with the recurrent injustices that are happening around the world with Black lives and the unlawful killings at the hands of police officers, it's easy to get into a cycle of I don't know what to do. And so today I want to talk a little bit about my mental health and what I've done to try and change my relationship with my mental health. And so the first thing I want to start with today is minimalism. Now, hold your horses for a second, because I know when I say minimalism, you probably picture some white dude in his home office, painted white, nothing else on his desk but his laptop, his MacBook Pro, and you think, hold on a second, isn't minimalism just for people who have white privilege and who are privileged enough to have a minimalist lifestyle? No. Now, if you don't know what minimalism is, that's going to be another video. Today, I want to talk about how I've used minimalism to try and help my mental health. I used to own a lot of clothes, a lot of books, a lot of games, and it got to the point where in my mind I felt like I owed myself something, that I had to catch up with this book that I wanted to read 2 years ago, that I wanted to finish this game, that I wanted to wear all these clothes that I had, and I felt guilty not using everything I owned. But in the back of my mind, I had a mental list of, these 10 books that I hadn't read but I bought 5 years ago. And so then I came across minimalism. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a full-blown minimalist. I might get there one day, but I'm slowly getting to grips with what it actually is. Now, the thing with minimalism is there is no one-size-fits-all solution for everybody. So for me, I had to get rid of the things that I felt were really holding me back, were preventing me from being able to get over my anxiety. Now, don't get me wrong, the things that I owned weren't the cause of my anxiety, not by a long shot. But they definitely had an impact. So I got rid of those books that I hadn't read. I got rid of the clothes that I hadn't worn in the last 90 days, or I wasn't going to wear in the next 90 days. I started downsizing my camera gear. And so I went down the list and I started getting rid of things that I didn't need anymore. And as I did that, I started feeling lighter. I started to think better, because the things that I owned that were constantly on my mind, the books that I needed to read, the games that I needed to play, the films that I needed to watch, were no longer there anymore. The idea of minimalism has taught me a lot about the dependence that we have on possessions. But this is the first episode of me wanting to delve into the whys of my mental health and why I decided to do things a certain way. My mental health has definitely improved since I started practicing minimalism. Can't say I'm at 100% yet, but I don't think I'll ever be at 100%. But I can say that it has improved. These videos are going to be changing slightly. I want to focus more on my mental health. I want to focus on our mental health as a society. And I really want to get down to the detail, and I want to figure out what it is that makes us tick. Why do we have anxiety? Why do we have depression? And so think of this as some kind of diary, as some kind of vlog, if you will. And for this first episode of my new YouTube, if you will, I want to bring in a guest. Not physically, because she's not here, but my sister-in-law, who is a clinical psychologist, and she's going to help me today. And I've got a question for you, Dr. Mystery, Dr. Tina Mystery. Dr. Mystery? Dr. Tina Mystery, the brown psychologist, if you will. And that question is, why can we feel overwhelmed when we have an excess of belongings? Over to you.
Hi Goran, thank you for your question. So, excess of belongings. I think just even the idea of it and the kind of image of having an excess of belongings just feels overwhelming. You know, if you think about it, it's kind of like a piling up of things in your mind. So the psychological underpinnings of this concept kind of comes from hoarding literature, in that people will accumulate things because of the value they place on it. This is perpetuated by materialism and capitalist kind of ideas. So we're kind of on one hand told, buy this, buy that, because it's going to make you feel good. The whole minimalism movement or ideas have kind of, they're from way back. You know, if you think about spiritual teachings, it is about this relinquishment, this sort of detachment from things. What I guess what we're thinking about is this idea of the attachment to an object. And if we have an attachment to an object, we can potentially perpetuate anxiety from that, because it's kind of like, I need this thing in my life, and if I am not using it, what am I doing with it? It's consuming mental space, it's consuming mental energy. So it's the attachment process that keeps that cycle going. But if we are then able to detach from the object, we no longer have that cycle to perpetuate. So we're able to then split off from it and no longer feel the burden of whatever object it might be. I hope that answers your question.
And that's what was up, guys. If you did dig it, please do the old thumbs up thing down there. Subscribe if you haven't already, because I know a ton of you have not subscribed because of reasons. So if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe now. I'm going to wait right here. Just subscribe. Press subscribe. The red button down there. Good? So you're going to see more stuff like this, and I want you to be involved. I want you to comment down below. I want you to tell me how you're feeling, and I want to know your experiences with mental health or anxiety or depression. Over the next however many episodes, I'm going to be opening up to you, and I'm going to be telling you how I've experienced mental health and what I've done to try and overcome it. So thank you for joining me on this journey, and thank you for watching me. All right. That was a bit heavy, wasn't it?